Hello everyone, welcome to the Stoic Campfire. And many times in history, a campfire provides us a place for rest and solace. In our modern, very chaotic, fast-paced world, we oftentimes need places where we can sit and ponder. Welcome to the campfire that you may ponder and think as long as you would like. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Christianity and Stoicism. Christianity, especially nowadays, has a very massive buzzword to it. If somebody mentions that they're a Christian, mentions that they go to church, or something to that regard, we all immediately begin to form a picture in our head of who that person is. Maybe we think of examples like Westboro Baptist Church, of people rioting, yelling, throwing signs about how they hate anyone and everyone. And I would say, for someone who doesn't know a lot about Christianity, it's very easy to form an immediate opinion and say, wow, Christians are very hateful individuals. However, I would encourage someone who is curious about said faith to look at one of the best constituents of the faith, the Apostle Paul. The Apostle Paul is considered to be the apostle to the Gentiles. During the time that the Bible is written, it separates two main people types, the Jews and the Gentiles. The Jews were obviously, in the Bible, considered to be God's people, whereas the Gentiles were considered to be everyone else. Paul, as opposed to the rest of the apostles and the rest of the disciples, began his ministry to the Gentiles, which he did very successfully and very prolifically. If you look at the way that he lives his life, it's very fascinating, because it more so coincides with another principle of the time, Stoicism. I would say that the Apostle Paul is the perfect embodiment of the first Christian Stoic. Many of his writings in the epistles, which are his letters to the various church, and some of his letters to himself and his followers, he writes in many of his own personal struggles, his personal worries, the things that he wishes he could do better at. And he also encourages self-discipline for himself, but also for the people that he is surrounded by. As a result, a lot of his teachings and a lot of his suggestions follow very much so in line with Stoicism. I would say in addition to this, you also see the Apostle Paul conduct himself in a way that is very similar to the great Stoic Epictetus. Epictetus, being a former slave who had his leg broken at a very young age, he did his best to find a way to be content in every condition in life. The Apostle Paul says, despite everything that happens to me, I have found the ability to be content in every situation. The main difference between the Stoics and the Apostle Paul is that the Stoics used their selves as a well to draw strength from. One of the famous quotes, "If you ever desire strength, look deep into yourself, and you will always find a source." The Apostle Paul was slightly different than this. Rather than looking deep into himself, he looked to God for strength. He looked to Jesus Christ for strength. While different, he still embodied many of the same principles and same ideas that was presented in Stoicism. And I would say, to a great deal of it, he found a way to deal with many terrible persecutions and terrible punishments that most Stoics would have had a hard time struggling with. In addition, I would say that Stoicism is not just a great thing for a modern Christian to study. I would say it is a great thing for a Muslim to study, a great thing for a Jew to study, and a great thing even for an atheist to study. A lot of Stoic principles provide very practical and very easy steps on how to live a more moral and virtuous life. Especially in a modern generation where we are lacking morality and we have a major increase in moral bankruptcy, I find it very important that we find a base that we can all agree on that allows us to dictate some level of morals. I would say, especially in our modern generation, Stoicism in a way is the light in the darkness that our society so everly needs. It not only provides practical advice that will help the people around you, it also provides practical advice that will help you live a more happy and successful life. There are many sources that speak of this. Some of the greatest leaders in the world were Stoics. One great leader would have been Marcus Aurelius. He's considered to be the last great emperor of the Roman Empire. Marcus Aurelius writes a book that is called Meditations. It is one of the finest and probably one of the major trademarks of Stoicism. If you look up Stoic books, Meditations is probably one of your first ones to come up to it, with the exception of maybe Letters from a Stoic and the Indicurion. Marcus Aurelius discovered many patterns on how to be successful. Most of that boiled into managing one's stress. In addition, it boiled into managing one's expectations, multiple things that we struggle with to do as a modern society. I would say if anyone is listening to this and they're having a hard time finding peace, or they're having a hard time discovering what is the point to truthfully the world, I would say Stoicism is an excellent approach and is an excellent ideology that they should look at. There are many practical guides on Spotify. There are many practical guides on YouTube. Truthfully, just doing a quick dive into the study will probably reveal something that you've been looking for. Anyways, till next time,